Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or older in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
All right, welcome to this week's edition, whatever. It's an E-word of Stay Off My Lawn. All E-words are the same. It's just we categorize them like that. It is April 1st, 2025, and this is episode 111. Is April Fool's Day, and that's what Mike and Richard are all about here.
Yes, I'm going to use my normal voice today because I'm tired of putting out a fake one. So this is how I'm going to sound today. Just a normal me. That's it.
Well, that's it, folks. I got to go. I can't do this anymore.
You're going, my ears. Ow, ow, I'm done.
It blew the wax out the left side here. Well, anyway, today is, we're going to get to Tariff Day here in a second, but we are going to kick it off with our new segment.
It's time for Stupid Holidays of the Week.
Of course, today is April Fool's Day, and there's a few theories on its origin, but most likely it came from the ancient Roman festival of Hilaria. This is something I did not know until I read it this week. I know I would have no idea. Of course, I'm sure that's where hilarious comes from, but people would disguise themselves and play practical jokes on each other and send peoples on a fool's errand. If you know what a fool's errand is, tell them to go get, in the Air Force, it was like, go get us a yard of flight line and get back here. And you know, the guys didn't even have a stripe on their sleeve. They'd be gone all day.
Let's go snipe hunting.
Snipe hunting. That's a perfect one. Yes,
there you go. We all know that one. Well, maybe not all of us, but some of us old guys remember snipe hunting as a kid.
I do. You got to use the 12 gauge with the small pellets for those. Sunday was National Doctor's Day, and since your PCP probably didn't show up to work on that day, just forget it. They probably rode around in their Beamers, and they're doing just fine.
There's Muffin and I took the day.
Oh, and my doctor is a listener, so no offense, Dr. Sward. Sorry about that. Yesterday was World Backup Day. It's a day to remind you to back up all your files on your computer and phone.
Oh, not that kind of backup.
No. I mean, I do that when my wife backs up sometimes, and I really...
Oh, you are a brave soul. I ain't anywhere touching that one.
The couch is comfy, I will say. No, I never do that to her. Goodness gracious. I love her. Goodness. Anyway, tomorrow celebrates one of my favorite sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly day.
We had that for dinner about 2 weeks ago.
See?
Neither one of us knew what we wanted. It's like we had a big breakfast and went, let's just have a peanut butter jelly sandwich. We call it an upgrade, a little bag of chips.
See, there you go. I'll do that like when watching TV. It's like I get snacky or whatever, and so I'll go and make a half a peanut butter and jelly, and it satiates me until I go floss and get ready for bed. So anyway.
Mine has to be mixed, though. I can't just put peanut butter on one side. No, it's got to be in a bowl.
It mixes when you fold it.
No, it doesn't. That peanut butter goes right up against the roof, man. I'm like a dog that's going, nah, nah, and I can't get it off of there. So yeah, it gets whipped up. And a boss one time was riding with me on my route truck. And he said, he kept looking over at me funny. He was doing the driving and I was eating. He kept looking over and goes, what? Are you eating a pudding sandwich? Oh, I said, it's peanut butter and jelly. What kind of peanut butter? Yeah, it was mixed. That's so.
Tell Nancy we need a video of you. I want to see that. I think that seems like that would make my day, as a matter of fact. Thursday this week is National Don't Go to Work Unless It's Fun Day. And so,
you know what? I'm just not going to work anymore, ever.
I'm not going all week. So, I mean, I'm going to put it that way. So if you're a boss somewhere and nobody shows up to work on Thursday, don't blame the messenger. I'm just here to read the news. Friday is World Rat Day, and it celebrates them as pets, I guess. So in other words, they're not just for testing out medications. They can be fun little furry friends, I guess. And anyway, finally, Saturday is Gold Star Spouses Day. This is kind of a serious one. It's a day to honor the surviving spouses of fallen service members, recognizing their sacrifices and the ultimate sacrifice of their loved ones in the service to the nation, which is, I think it does cover police officers and firefighters also. But that's a good one. I like that one.
Yep.
So when I got up this morning, I thought it was going to be too noisy to do the podcast. My wife's like she goes, you're going to have to tell them we're going to have to wait until later on this afternoon. We had invited some friends over to take out 3 trees. These are 40 to 50 foot trees that we have in our yard.
How many beavers did you have? Out there gnawing away?
Yeah, well, I think there were 6 of them out there. But they came over here. They got here at about 8:30, and by 10 o'clock, they were wrapping up and leaving my yard. It was absolutely incredible. And I told them I'd give them a shout out. They've subscribed to our podcast now. So, my friend Joel over at Beaver Tree Service, and you can go.
I told you.
Exactly. If you live in Northwest Georgia, you can go to Beaver Tree Service asap@gmail.com and write them an email, or you just go to Beaver Tree Service asap.com. So anyway, it's they're great guys. They gave me a great price. But Joel is fan. Ask for Joel. He's a good guy. So anyway, no noise today. I don't normally do this, but my pastor, James Griffin, here in Cartersville, we go to a place called Crosspoint City Church. It's a non-denominational, but we are a very conservative church. But he brought up something at the beginning of the service this past Sunday, and it really explains all the craziness that we do see today. And I thought it was worth sharing.
I mean, I think you already know this, but I'm gonna make sure, okay? People where we live aren't doing so great today, y'all. They're just not. And it's crazy when you think about it, because what we know is that we live in one of the safest countries on the planet, and we live at the most prosperous time in human history. Yet all the sociological research tells us that we are more anxious than we've ever been. We're more depressed than we've ever been, more suicidal than we've ever been. We are more addicted than we've ever been. And I truly believe it's all a result of this demonic ideology called secular humanism being shoved down our throats for far too long now. Truly believe it, right? This is the ideology that would say to you and me that we don't need God, we can be gods over our own lives. Like, it would have us to believe that we're fully capable of deciding what's true for us. And if we'll just live according to what we've decided, we'll thrive and we'll flourish. But it's all a lie. People are not thriving and they're not flourishing. They're dying every day. They're dying mentally. They're dying emotionally. Sadly, some of them are dying physically. But here is the very good news. Listen, there's a better way.
And of course, that better way is to live in obedience to a God that loves you so much. He went out of his way to sacrifice his own son. But even if you don't believe that, and I'm sure that a lot of our listeners may not believe that, but even if you don't believe it, abandoning common sense for an ideology that is pushed by a political party or whatever that lacks reason is absolute insanity. I was talking to Joel this morning, the guy from the tree service. It's like, if you think it's a good idea for men to be involved in women's sports or men to be in women's restrooms,
Nope.
and the list kind of goes on. If you think the borders being open is a good idea, if you think gang members that are here illegally that got shipped back to whatever country to just get out of here because they're terrorizing Americans is not a good idea, then yeah, you're adhering to an ideology that makes no sense. And Richard and I are big on the common sense theme of our show, so.
Yep, I grew up on a farm working with my grandpa, and there's just things that you got to figure out how to do. Nobody tells you. There's no means of going, well, just do this, and it's in the manual. It says, nah, it's not how it works, folks. You got to have some common sense to figure out how things, where they come from and how this is going to affect that. And that's the only way it's going to work. Not, I think it'll, or I wish it would. No. Wishing and hoping ain't going to fix it.
Sure. And a lot of that is observing people that know better. observing people that have done it before. You don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel every time, but I'm sure you grew up with your grandfather on that farm, and you saw him do things that you may not even realize that you filed away. That now that it comes across in your life, you know what to do.
Yeah, well, working on my property type stuff and thinking about things it's got to be this way. Well, I've got water rights because I live in the high desert, and if you don't water stuff, nothing's going to grow. It gets too hot in the summer and no rain. But it's like, well, if I have a pump there and I put that in, I don't want to water off of my well, but I have rights to that ditch that's back there. If I got a pump and I moved it and so I got it all set up. It's all manual. I just moved the hose 5 stations and let it run about an hour a piece, and I've got it all figured out. Somebody went, well, that's ingenious. No, it's just common sense. Water's got to go from there to there, and this is how you do it. So that's a common sense thing, but there's also things in your life you can use that on.
Absolutely. And I think that when you have this sociological stuff that's going on in the world today, I mean, you can apply common sense to everything, parenting, everything. So, I mean, if you belong to something, the Democratic Party is a good example of this. I hate picking on them constantly, but we do. But they're trying to tell you how you should think or what you should think. And the Republicans, or at least Richard and I, want you to think for yourself. We want to teach you how to think. That was what I did with my son. That's what you did with your girls. I know you did.
Yep. With the girls and the granddaughters. And I had my oldest granddaughter, I think she was about 10 at the time. And we didn't get to see him that often until he got into the service and they travel and stuff. But one time I was talking to her about stuff and she just goes, I think I learn more from you than anybody else. Okay. Because you just teach them stuff and it's like, figure it out, think about it. And there you go.
Yeah, you got to love that. I don't think I've heard that, but I know it's true. He's never told me. Oh man! Well, today is.
I don't learn anything from you, so there.
So I mean, which is standard. It's what's today? Tuesday. Yes, it's a standard Tuesday. Yes. Today is April 1st, and it's Tariff Day. The day some of these tariffs that President Trump has promised to put in on new cars, especially not made in America. I think it's 25% going into effect today. I think the stock market's probably going to take another dip. It's been dipping the last 4 days, I think.
And I don't think he's going to sign stuff until tomorrow. He goes, I just don't want to sign it on April Fool's Day. He goes, it's tempting, but I'm not going to do it. He goes, that's not a good idea.
It's bad omen. Yeah. CNN, who likes to ask the same question over and over again, trying to get a different response from people, because they're looking for something that adheres to their narrative, which is fine.
That's right.
They were talking to Kevin O'Leary the other day about the tariffs, and they didn't get what they wanted.
How are you looking at this?
I don't see it that high. A lot of these forecasts are based on the idea that tariffs are going to be permanent and in perpetuity, and I don't think that's the case. I think what's unusual about the situation we have now that's never happened before is usually when you talk about tariffs or trade negotiations, you do them with a group of countries, for example, NAFTA, which included Mexico and Canada last time. In the typical style of Trump, he likes to actually let you watch sausage being made. He's putting tariffs on the entire world. Never been done. And so it's really about making reciprocal tariffs with every country that applied these as far back as the Second World War. And it's a series of negotiations that are happening. So for me, I look at this and say, okay, what he really wants to do is bring the ratio of tariffs to be equivalent between England or Canada or Mexico or any country, frankly, by schedule. And these things have existed for decades. And so if you're Britain, as they're doing right now, or Canada, you're scrambling. You're trying to figure out which are the priorities that you want to get reduced. Because in the end, about tariffs, if they're going to be reciprocal, in the end, that actually promotes free trade. It's stupid to have the same equal tariff on both sides of any country. It's just dumb. And everybody knows that. And so you eventually say, well, as occurred just 48 hours ago when Senator Kennedy out of Louisiana said, hey, what are we, idiots here? Canadians, 0 tariffs. U.S., 0 tariffs. Let's get this economy merged in terms of trading freely with no tariffs in the 49th parallel. He makes sense. And that's exactly what's going to happen. In the case of the Canadians, you get a political situation, an election, so it's toxic up there. They're using Trump to get out the base to vote. Anti-Trump everywhere. That's what Carney's doing, the liberal leader who's about to lose, and now he's using Trump as the fulcrum to try and stay in power, or at least his party stays in power. And so this is really an interesting dynamic, but it too will pass. I don't think this is going to cause a recession. I don't see it in my own companies yet, and I think it's going to be short-lived.
I do think that if Pierre Poilievre up in Canada, the conservative guy, if he gets in there, I think it'll drop it down to zero. Him and Trump will come together. It's like, look, and Kevin O'Leary said the same thing. I've thought this. I don't know whether I've ever said it on the air, but I've thought this. If it's 25% on both sides, what difference does it make? Just make it zero. And that way prices go down for everybody.
Yeah, it's and speaking of which, yes, I think Pierre will be much better to deal with than what's his name, Carney.
Yeah, Carney's the guy that took over for Trudeau.
Yeah, because he is a Carney. What a con man.
He's got all his teeth.
So they're saying, "Oh, Trump really likes him," and Trump just smirks when somebody said that to him. It's like, okay, he's playing a game, and you Democrat people just aren't. He likes saying stuff. He was on the plane. Somebody was interviewing yesterday, and he gave an answer, and then he smirked about it. Oh, it was being a president three times.
Oh, yeah.
And he just he said it, and then, well, I guess it's a possibility. And he just kind of smirked like, there's no way in hell. But
he's brought it up too many times. I wish he would stop doing that. It's all this is distraction. But he's like, he throws the breadcrumbs out there and they all just flock around him. So it doesn't matter.
All these little pigeons who don't have food from anywhere else, they go to it and it's all just BS and he's just loving it. They don't understand how to play games other than political wise. He's on a level. He's playing 5-tier chess and you're can't even get your pawn to match up.
Your king is asleep in the back there. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well.
Well, hey, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to look a little bit into Signalgate again. If you don't know what Signalgate is, then we'll catch you up to speed. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. More of the Stay Off My Lawn podcast is coming up.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Tiny Thong Bikini Wearer.
Mr. Tiny Thong Bikini Wearer.
Beachgoers the world over see you coming and say, hey, check out the woolly mammoth in the rubber band.
A giant woolly mammoth.
Who says you need muscles and a big package to wear one of those? Not you, that's for sure.
Standing tall.
Like ground meat crammed into a sausage skin, you take to the beach and proudly strut your stuff.
Yeah!
If you've got it, flaunt it. That's your motto, which is ironic because you haven't got it. So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, sweet cheeks, and know that if you weren't wearing that suit, we'd ask you to take a bow.
Mr. Tiny Thong Bikini Wearer.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hi, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2, and we are moving right along. We were talking about Signalgate at the end of the last segment. There's still a lot of media attention, man. They just don't want to let this go.
They don't have anything else. That's why they don't want to let it go. They got nothing.
You're right. You're right. They got nothing. It's like this is from the mostly peaceful protest side of the aisle. If you're not familiar with what we're talking about,
if they beat this horse anymore, it's going to be glue. Okay, I mean, you can only beat that dead horse for so long.
I know it. They're calling for Pete Hegseth's head. They're calling for
whatever.
Mike Walz's head. It's just. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Trump's doubling down on that. It's not going. He's not.
Nope. They've already had their meeting about it. It's a done deal. And that's what the press secretary has said and said, no, it's done. We've talked about it. We've made some changes. Moving on.
Again, you zoom out from a 30,000 foot view perspective. And there were no military secrets or strategies were discussed. No classified information was shared. There's a lady named Brittany Hughes. She's over at the Media Research Center, and she gave us a nice big picture overview of what this is all about.
So we know Hillary Clinton stored classified information on her unsecured home server. We know she used BleachBit to scrub her emails before she turned it back over. When all of this came out, Democrats either sat there like a bump on a log, like it was nothing, or they came out in swarms to defend her, pretending this was a big nothing burger and nobody should be worried about it. She didn't do anything wrong. There was classified information on her home server that she then scrubbed before she turned it back over. And these are the same people who want us to go absolutely apoplectic over officials in the Trump administration using a secured encryption chat room app recommended by the Department of Homeland Security to discuss a military operation. Now, look, even if that was a terrible idea, the hand-wringing and pearl-clutching is awfully hard to take from people who didn't care that Hillary Clinton was storing classified information at her home, or that every time Joe Biden pulled his Corvette out of the garage of his Delaware beachside mansion, he was knocking over another box of classified documents he just forgot he had. Either classified materials matter or they don't. Either security matters or it doesn't. I'm willing to criticize the Trump administration for something that I darn well know I'd be criticizing the Biden administration for. They were sloppy at best, and that's a problem. And there should be accountability. But it seems Democrats only care about breaches of security when it involves a president they hate and have already decided is Hitler. That's the goal here. They don't care about military operational security. They want this administration to fail because it's the only way they save face after the past 4 years.
Word of the day is apoplectic. we'll keep that in mind.
I was going to look that up, but it's like, okay, it's not good.
I think it's something, but anyway.
It's appa something.
Yeah, it's appa something. But that's exactly it. And again, I believe that the repeated calls of Trump being Hitler, I think it's just fallen on deaf ears. It's like, what else you got? And really, I mean, how much worse does it get than Hitler? I mean, when you hate another race or another group of people so much that you murder 6 million of them, this is about as bad as it gets. I mean, Pol Pot is pretty close. He murdered about half of his population back in the day. I mean, so all these dictators, these lefty dictators, I know they try to paint him as a right side of the aisle person. These are lefty dictators. It just doesn't work. Excuse me. Attorney General Pam Bondi was asked about this again last Thursday and had a very similar response. Here's that.
The signals chat controversy that's going on, is DOJ involved at this point? If so, why? If not, why not?
Well, first, it was sensitive information, not classified, and inadvertently released. And what we should be talking about is it was a very successful mission. Our world is now safer because of that mission. We're not going to comment any further on that. If you want to talk about classified information, talk about what was at Hillary Clinton's home that she was trying to BleachBit, talk about the classified documents in Joe Biden's garage that Hunter Biden had access to. This was not classified information, and we are very pleased with the results of that operation and that the entire world is safer because of it. Thank you all very much.
That's the kind of attorney general that I like.
Yeah, it's like, here it is, and she's not screwing around, and it's the truth, and go ahead and look it up if you want to. By the way, the word of the day is apoplectic, meaning to overcome with anger, extremely indignant. Boy, that sounds like a Democrat, doesn't it?
It does. Very indignant.
Yes, Mark was apoplectic with rage at the decision. Okay, that sounds... That's what it says. I'm reading it to you as it is. So I was not absolutely positive about what it was. That I knew it was kind of something like that. But
I knew it was. You were very upset. I mean,
yes, you're not happy with things in life.
In my high school education, that's the best I can come up with.
We're just so educated. Yeah. I just know super things. Anyway.
I still have my diploma somewhere. If you look a little bit deeper into that Signal app, which is the app that they communicated, and actually at the behest of Homeland Security, they told them to put that on their computers and on their phones to communicate these kind of things.
Yes. It was approved. They're just, somebody got on there somehow, and they're still some funky reasoning as to how did that clown from the Atlantic get in there, and all of a sudden he's disappeared because he was saying, oh, there was military secrets about how they were going to maneuver, and there was nothing in there. So he doesn't know what he's talking about. He was making a big brouhaha about it just so his little piece of crap magazine could get something happening, and it didn't help.
He was
'cause
releasing
he's still a
them
moron.
just a little bit at a time, just to kind of keep the spotlight on him, and it didn't work.
What am I around?
If you look a little deeper at the Signal app, the chairman of the board at Signal is NPR CEO Catherine Maher. Maher, M-A-H-E-R. Maher.
I think it's just Maher. Yeah.
And if you remember, she was the one that said this at a TED Talk last year.
I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction that is preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done.
Yeah, the truth is just a distraction. I mean, we don't need the truth.
It's just such a bother to always have the truth. Oh, who wants to deal with that?
There's my truth, and then there's your truth, and then there's him's truth. So anyway, Congressman Brandon Gill. I had not heard of this guy previously.
Oh, he has risen in the ranks of being, holy crap, who is this guy? We like him.
Yeah, I know. I like him. I like his style. He's very similar to, we were talking off the air, very similar to Ted Kennedy. Oh my gosh. John Kennedy from Louisiana. Ted Kennedy kills people in cars. It's different. But anyway, here's Congressman Brandon Gill kind of doing a little dressing down of Catherine Maher.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone.
Seems to be what you're suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being
illegal. You tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time at NPR.
You tweeted that you read that book, but
I don't believe that I did read that book, sir.
Do you think that a few years ago, NPR educated America about quote, the whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of tax dollars?
I was not at NPR at the time, sir.
That's not the question, though. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of our tax dollars?
I think our tax dollars that we use are to be able to provide a wide range of perspectives.
I'll take that as a yes. You do believe that that's appropriate.
And the beating kind of goes on. It's like a UFC fight. It's really where it's like an 11-year-old girl against somebody much bigger.
Oh my Lord! We were talking off the air, and what he reminded me of is a young Columbo. Oh, did you? I have notes here that say, yeah, you did. Not nasty, not getting in her face, just goes, well, you tweeted, it says right here, you tweeted about it.
If it was John Kennedy, he'd held up the paper and goes, there it is, big as Dallas. Oh my God.
It was so not nasty, not interface, not like you. No, it's just like, well, I asked that question and you say no, but you tweeted about it.
It's like, how many?
And you did it again here.
How many lies can you get caught in 4 minutes?
Oh, Lord, I've heard this like 5 times and I still laugh at it every time I hear it. It's like, she is just, and she's so smug and arrogant. It's like, yes, well, I was just a privileged little white girl. I shouldn't have been, I guess. What? What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Because you thought you were superior as a white girl growing up. It doesn't mean that white people, just because somebody shares a skin color doesn't mean, it just blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Did she really? What?
Like you said, the arrogance is what gets me.
Just thinks it. Yeah. And we're still wondering who got the guy from the Atlantic in their little chat bot session. Yeah. And she's on the board.
One of these
things that make you go,
yeah. There's a connection that probably shouldn't be somehow. I just don't. I don't know what else to even comment about.
Yeah, well, we've used that rubber hose long enough. Time to move on.
CNN, the bastion of fair and balanced news out there. Conducted a poll.
How could you say that without heaving? My Lord.
It was hard. I think I just picked up the cushion that I sit on without even trying. I didn't even touch it with my hands. So there's your visual. They conducted a poll when for the approval rating of the Democratic Party. You said you just saw last night that it hit an all-time low of
new poll of 25. Is all that approves of the Democratic. Last week there was a poll that was 29.
27.
Then NBC did a poll, and it went to 27, and the latest one is 25%.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
They don't know where they're going, and they have no idea how they're going to get there.
It's like they don't know that the ship is sinking, and they just keep drilling holes in the bottom, hoping that it's going to get better, and it's not.
Where's all this water coming from? What? I don't know.
Well, there's more to this. I get it now. Thanks for that. I'm glad you explained it to me.
I wanted to make it clear so that you understood.
It's the whole high school education thing I told you about, isn't it? It's like, well, he's kind of dumb. Let me explain this to him. Hey, we got more about this story, but we're up against a break. Why don't we do that? And when we come back, we'll talk more about the leadership in the Democratic Party here in America, which is in total disarray, and we will make fun of that. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
The Stay Off My Lawn podcast will be right back.
When you're strong-willed, you do it your own way. When you're uncompromising, second best never crosses your mind. When you're set in your ways, you stay true to yourself. If you can drink to that, we've got a beer with your name on it. Like the Rocky Mountains themselves, Coors Banquet is an American original, and originals always follow their own road. Since 1873, Coors Beer's been brewed in Golden, Colorado. Coors, the banquet beer.
We do like to laugh. Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3, and we're going to continue with this CNN straight down the middle poll where they were talking about 25%.
Yeah, they're not happy with the straight down the middle poll either.
No, they actually, yeah. And you can see the consternation on their face. It kind of adds to it to me. But they
I need to look that one up too. Consternation.
Consternation, yes. It's not constipation, consternation. But they were asked in this poll, they were asked to name the Democratic leader they feel best reflects the core values of the party. 10% was the best rating anybody got, and that was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh my God, if that's who you want to be your leader, are you serious?
Take me to your leader. Yeah, she'll have a gin and tonic for you when you get there too. So, but former Vice President Kamala Harris got 9%. 8% went to Bernie Sanders from Vermont,
everybody's favorite socialist with $3 million multi-million-dollar homes.
Yeah,
all the rest of you peons can't have homes like this. But trust me, this will be good for you.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's right. Or somebody, I think it was, I'm trying to remember who it was, but it might have been Paul Harvey. But anyhow, no, it was in England, Churchill said that socialism is just a means by which everybody ends up being equally poor. Yep, you're equally poor.
So we're all standing in line for that government cheese. So
that's right. It's like, no, homie ain't playing that game.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries got 6% and 4%.
I didn't even remember saying his name. That's sad.
Another 4% each named former President Barack Obama and Texas Rep. Jasmine Crockett. Now, you've been seeing Jasmine Crockett. If you pay attention to the news, or even if you follow the same accounts that Richard and I do on social media, Jasmine Crockett's been front and center. I think that she's kind of...
yeah, she's front and center in trouble, too. But that's okay. I mean, that's
she's kind of put
her
herself
choice that she made.
Yeah, she's made that choice. She put herself in that position. But this poll came out after she had this to say about Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who, by the way, if you're not familiar, he's in a wheelchair.
Because we in these hot ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Now she's trying to backpedal. She said on her official X account, she said, and I don't buy any of this. So maybe you think for yourself though. But she says, I wasn't thinking about the governor's condition. I was thinking about planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants into communities led by black mayors.
Yes, she doesn't think that far ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're right. But she said, she went on to say, deliberately stoking tension and fear among those most vulnerable. But I don't buy any of that. She was talking about planes, trains, and automobiles. She wasn't talking about his wheelchair. Come on now.
Yeah, let me see. No.
That was a good John Candy movie, but I don't know. So Hot Wheels is more about immigration policy. I got it. So anyway, she's covered her bases on that. Here's one more example of her brilliance. Attacking Byron Donalds, one of our favorite congressmen. She was on Charlemagne the God's radio program. Here's what she had to say.
And if we continue to put people into office, and that even means some of our skinfolk who definitely are not our kinfolk, such as Byron Donalds, who are going to continue to say that, the fact that you sitting around talking about life was better under Jim Crow, is this because you don't understand history? Or literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you. I'm not really sure, what it is.
Does she ever not think about race? That's what I want to know. She grew up very privileged, much more privileged than us white people that are in this room together right now. But anyway.
What? You're white? Really?
But I mean, much more privileged than us. I mean,
just a couple of hardworking folks who worked our tail off with our hands all the time. So we're one of the Deplorables who, you're not educated. You're just one of those.
I've been called worse probably already today. So, yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Oh, and does she not realize Jim Crow was not a Republican thing?
No, I don't know.
They don't seem to understand that was done mostly in the South, and it was Democrats trying to keep the colored folk from voting.
Well, and you can even drive it even further, newer than that with LBJ.
Yeah,
he was a Democrat, terrible racist person that he's famous for signing the civil rights bill and everything. But it's like, he didn't care anything about black people. I mean, if you read anything that he had spoken about prior, it's like all these Dixiecrats have tried to pander to get the minority votes on things. And it's like, you have to engage some of your brain matter in order to understand that these people are not for you, they're against you. It goes all the way back to Lincoln, the first Republican president, and say he was the one who started this whole anti-slavery movement and nationally anyway. Historically,
they
it's
don't
been
know
that
where
way.
it comes from because they're not taught civics. They don't understand the history of the United States, where stuff started. When they're asked on the street, most of them go, "Oh, well, that's a Democrat, or that's a Republican."
Right.
No, that was done. They just don't get it. Every single one, they can ask 6 questions and they all say, "Oh, well, the Democrats did that."
Right.
No.
Yeah, I've seen the one where they said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And they're like going, why? That had to be Trump, or that had to be whatever. It's like, no, that was Joe Biden. Joe Biden said that? It's like, oh my gosh, it was everywhere. How did you not see that? Oh my gosh. But
they just go by what they're told to believe and understand. You're just too stupid, and we will let you know when you need to. That kind of crap is just ridiculous.
I know.
Good people, I don't give a crap if you're pink, purple, orange, green, black, or blue. It don't matter to me. You're a good person. You're a good person. You work hard for what you do. You help out a fellow man or whatever. That's all it is. It's this stuff because you're of a certain color, you should be of a certain way. No.
Well, remember Morgan Freeman had that interview with Don Lemon, and Don was talking to him about race and everything. He says, "I just think we need to stop talking about it." It's the more you peel that scab off of sins from 150 years ago, or even 100 years ago, or back in Jim Crow, less than 100 years ago. So, I mean, yeah, you keep peeling that scab off, you're going to start getting that wound infected. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. We keep going down that road, and the more we try to defend ourselves and say, we don't care anything about color. We just want it to be a meritocracy, no matter what it is. Then the more we defend ourselves, the more it looks like we're just being defensive, which is not helpful either. So
no, it's not doing anybody any favors, and it's just causing more diverse and Crockett. When she wants to make points or she's got a speaking, she brings out her ghetto talk, and she is someone who has never seen or lived anywhere near a ghetto.
No.
But she doesn't want anybody to know that. She went to a high school, private school that cost more than a lot of colleges. $35,000 a year to go to high school, and then went from that to $55,000 a year to go to college. She's been nothing but privileged.
And when she first ran for office, I mean, she sounded standard American English like you and I.
Yes, speaks very well. And then all of a sudden, when she wants, you're black, you're supposed to sound like this. Okay, well, she's a pretty good performer.
And that drives me crazy when anybody does that. They kind of like take on an accent just because they're around somebody specifically. And it's like, to me, that screams in my face that you're a fake person. You can't, or you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, which, it tells me you can't be trusted. That's what I'm saying.
But I don't know at all what you're talking about, my good man. I shan't be anywhere near at all.
But she's put herself in the spotlight, and I think it's going to work against her eventually. So
it's working against her bad now, because she's going to be, what she did with go out there and go get Tesla.
Oh yeah.
She incited all this, and it's not going well.
Nope, not at all. Anyway, you know how the media loves to get their talking points from whoever's leading the Democratic Party, because we don't know who that is, apparently.
We don't know who it is.
But they get the same copy and pasted message to spew out. And Richard and I played this many times in the past about the whole COVID thing. They had a big message. It was like, 30 seconds long, where they talked about the dangers of COVID and how you need to get vaccinated and all that stuff. It was like word for word for word. Now they've gotten better.
36 stations, and they could. Somebody took the time to sync it all, and it was everything word for word. They just had something again recently the Democrat, 22 of the Democrat quote unquote leaders in Congress. Everything was exactly the same thing, holding a stupid mic in front of what was that? A phone, a tablet, or something, and all
it was right after Trump's
exactly
speech.
The same thing.
Yep, they sure did. Well, they've done it again, and they're trying to get more savvy about it by just having a couple of words that might be, but they have like a word of the day, like we have today, apoplectic. So anyway, the
word is apoplectic. Brought to you by Pfizer.
So all the lemmings have run off the cliff, is what I'm getting to. Here's 9 examples from last week. If you catch the copy and pasted phrase that pays, you too can win $1,000.
Be the 11th caller, and
So here's that.
The strength that we have is in this moment.
Listen to your constituents. Center them in this moment.
But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment.
I think about what's happening, in this moment.
What's important is that we meet this moment.
So are these current Democrats the ones to meet the moment?
What do you want to see us doing right now in this moment? And which Democrats are actually going to stand up against Elon Musk and Donald Trump in this moment?
The fight that you all are exhibiting is not just what the base wants, but it's what this moment requires.
So if you if you heard what the phrase that pays is, be calling it. So we it's just hilarious. Did you notice Tim Walz was one of those voices on there, and he was not on that list. I didn't go down far enough, maybe down to like 0.01% maybe, but he's not going to be the leader of the Democratic Party, no matter what he thinks.
Well, and when you're talking about things, because I think this is where we were talking about the Tesla stuff, and they had their big thing on Saturday, and they didn't have hardly anybody there. Well, somebody managed to get a picture over someone else's shoulder that had a script for the day, because they were all handed scripts, and it had little chants, and I'm trying to find it, and I can't find it right now. I've been
I think
ignoring you and trying to find it.
I think you sent it to me, or I sent it to you, but I do remember seeing that.
I think I sent it to you. It was so funny, and you can blow it up enough, you can read, and they're all da 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 da, and it's a whole page of these little chants. It's hilarious.
Speaking of the whole Tesla dealership protests, I heard there was supposed to be 500 worldwide. They pared it down to 200. I think there's a website for it, and I can't remember what it's called anyway, but where people can organize. Well, they didn't organize very well, but I think the best turnout they had worldwide was 100 people. And a lot of them here in the U.S., it was only like 12, 15 people showed up. So there's not this huge outcry that they try to make it sound like.
No, it didn't work. And the other thing was noticed that was came out last night is somebody was reporting on or checking out the one in Dallas.
Yeah.
And they were all there chanting, and they had their signs, and noontime came, they blew the whistle, and where'd they go?
It's like Fred Flintstone went right down the back of that brontosaurus. It's like, yabba dabba doo.
We're out of here. I got my money, and I'm only paid till noon. See ya. It was like they said it was, they were there, and they went to make some notes, and they looked up, and it was like, where'd everybody go? They just disappeared.
They were only there for the moment, and that moment was gone, apparently. So,
yes. Don't tell me they're not paid, and this is all just a net natural occurrence. No, it's not. And, well, we had that last week with the 35,000 people, supposedly, and then somebody said, no, it wasn't. It was closer to 25,000, which is still a pretty good-sized group.
The one in Denver you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. However, of the 25,000, somebody who knows this stuff with pinging the triangulation of cell phones,
towers,
85% of them had been to 9 or more Kamala Harris rallies, and another 10% had been to 20 or more. I wonder if these people are professional rally goers for a fee.
But and that's the thing. It's like you're being you're not being honest. You're not protesting something you really feel in your heart. Even if you felt it in your heart, I don't care. It's probably the taco. But I mean, you just have to question your own dignity. I mean, if you're going to go do whatever somebody says because of money, I think it's just crazy to me. So anyway, we are up against the break again. When we come back, we're going to hear a little bit from Jesse Waters about a story he just broke about the previous administration, and we're going to have that DOGE update, which we had talked about in the promo. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
If you're in our demographic, it might be a good time to go and pee. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Buffett. Save the Manatee Club has helped to protect imperiled manatees and their aquatic habitat for decades, but there's still more work to be done. Threats from cold weather, red tides, pollution, and boat collisions continue to take their toll on the manatee. So let's work together to safeguard the manatees and the places they call home. Be the friend they need. Visit SaveTheManatee.org. Thank you.
If not in the can.
Come on, aren't we done yet? Jeez. I mean, I'm on overtime already.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn. We're going to keep that in there. Segment 4, Jesse Waters from Fox News. Of course, every once in a while, we do have something from Fox News on here. He broke the story about the previous administration's plans if things went awry. Here we go.
Biden thought he'd leave the White House and so would all his scandals. But Sleepy Joe couldn't have been more wrong. Kamala staffers and other Democrats were preparing for Joe's death. Quote, top Democrats reportedly held secret meetings in 2023 to discuss withdrawing their support for Joe Biden as the party's presidential nominee and what they would do if he died in office. The startling claims revealed in a new book by authors Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnas also allege that Kamala Harris's aides war-gamed the possibility of the president dying on the campaign trail and even drew up a death pool roster of federal judges who would be willing to swear her in. They wanted to make sure the party was ready for every possible circumstance. On camera, Democrats told us Biden was perfectly fine and the best version of himself. But behind closed doors, there was a death pool. And they were ordering flower arrangements for his funeral. Joe didn't die, but the party did.
The party did.
Yes, the party did. Oh, God, I love the weekend at Bernie's. Yeah. Wow.
You put the aviators on, man. I think that it could have worked for a couple of weeks. I mean, until
skiing.
Until to quote Martha from the New Testament, it's like, but Lord, he stinketh. They probably would have had to wait.
Well, you had old Cammy Joe going, must it by a lot much. Oh, come on, he's going to die. They can put me in here. He's going to do it. He didn't die. Crap.
Look at him.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not going to let him run for president. I'll run. Then I'll get to be president then. Oh, they didn't like me this time either.
Even though I can't even compete with the guy in Depends. It's just not, it's just not working.
And she's second on the list of Democrats to be leader.
Isn't that something? She's, and like I said,
my Lord. And that's only 9%. That's why she is not liked at all.
She was at 6%.
She's a straight communist.
Yeah, she was at 9%. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, I told you numbers stay. I don't know why.
They sure do.
I can't
They
add
sure
for
do.
crap, but numbers stay.
Well, it wouldn't be a complete week if we didn't bring up DOGE, which recently MSNBC, of all places, reported this.
There was an Inspector General audit last year that showed over an 8-year period, the Social Security Administration made almost $72 billion in improper payments, a little less than 1% of payments in that time period. Now, the report also says that most of these improper payments were overpayments, not payments to deceased people or people who didn't qualify to receive these payments. At the same time, Jose, this effort by DOGE is to go through this agency like every other and try to weed out waste and fraud.
Yeah, I mean, and also 72 billion, and that's without a comprehensive search. I mean, that's significant.
Yeah, and to take that back, that wasn't recently. That was actually from last year. This is before Elon started going. They just did an IG report, and they were finding it then. Yeah, it is a problem, and right now, of course, everybody in the media is trying to say that they're going to,
putting it mildly.
Yeah, well,
sorry,
but I mean they're trying to say that they're going to cut Social Security, and I guess if you want to look at it in that way, yes, they're going to cut everybody who's over 120. They're not getting any more checks. If you're over 120.
What? But grandma needs to. What about the one that is getting checks that was part of the U.S. before it was the U.S. that's 350 years old?
Yeah. We've got somebody named Methuselah in Indiana somewhere that 969 years old. But anyway, Brett Baier sat down with Elon and the DOGE team and asked some really good questions on, and one of them was about the overarching goals of DOGE. And this is,
first, let me start with you, Elon. What are the budgetary savings goals, and how much do you think you've achieved so far?
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. From a nominal deficit of $2 trillion to try to cut the deficit in half to $1 trillion. Or looked at it in total federal spending to drop the federal spending from $7 trillion to $6 trillion. We want to reduce the spending by eliminating waste and fraud, reduce the spending by 15%, which seems really quite achievable. The government is not efficient, and there's a lot of waste and fraud. So we feel confident that a 15% reduction can be done without affecting any of the critical government services.
I'm going to talk to all the guys.
If not making it better.
In pure Elon style, he put out the most obvious thing ever. The government is not efficient. Yes, that is so true.
You're just now telling us this? We didn't know that.
Oh, my goodness gracious. He was asked about what his most surprising thing that he found as he was digging around, and this is what he had to say for that.
For you, what's the most astonishing thing you've found out in this process?
The sheer amount of waste and fraud in the government. It is astonishing. It's mind-blowing. We routinely encounter wastes of $1 billion or more, casually. For example, like the simple survey that was literally a 10-question survey that you could do with SurveyMonkey, cost you about $10,000, was the government was being charged almost $1 billion for that.
For just the survey?
$1 billion for a simple online survey, do you like the national park? And then there appeared to be no feedback loop for what would be done with that survey. So the survey would just go into nothing. It was like insane.
You got to wonder if somebody from SurveyMonkey is on the is somebody's son or daughter or something. I mean,
oh, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's like you get $1 billion and you get $1 billion and you get. Yeah. Look under your chair. There's another $1 billion.
But if nobody's watching, if the I don't know, if the fox is watching a hen house, it doesn't seem to matter. Everybody gets money, like you said, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. You go. By the way, you owe me a favor.
Oh, okay. Here's $1 billion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well, and that's one thing that Elon talked about early on was when he was running PayPal, the biggest complainers and whiners and people that would get really indignant were normally the fraudsters.
Right.
And the Democrats are really PO'd right now because their slush funds are going away one after another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
USAID was not the only place they had slush funds.
No, but that was quite a bit of money, wasn't that? 400 billion? Was it? 400?
Oh, yeah, it was almost $500 billion. It was ridiculous.
So that
going to some of the worst stupid things. And again, just like NPR, it was like 96% of all of the stuff that they doled money out to were leftist ideologies.
Yep. And like you said, they're all the ones who are throwing the fits. It's like, and I'll use this phrase again. It's like you throw a rock in a pack of dogs. The one that makes the most noise is the one that got hit. So, I mean, these are the people you're getting money sucked out of your pocket. Of course, you're going to make noise. Anyway, people love to throw around the fact that he's an unelected official which everybody in the cabinet is. Newsflash, everybody in this cabinet.
I know. It's like, hello. It's been that way kind of since we started this country. Hello. There's stuff in the Constitution. If you would have had some civics in class, you would understand. They're going, yeah, he wasn't elected.
And they couldn't even tell you how many Bill of Rights there are. These people don't know anything. You're right. Civics is just not taught. And this is another reason why the Department of Education is on the chopping block. But people like to say that he's overstepping his bounds and everything. Brett Baer asked him about that too, and what the limitations will be in his role at DOGE.
You technically are a special government employee, and you're supposed to be 130 days. Are you going to continue past that, or do you think that's what you're going to do? Or
well, I think we will have accomplished most of the work required to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion within that time frame.
So in that time frame, 130 days. And the process is a report at some point, at 100 days? Or?
Not really a report. We are cutting the waste and fraud in real time. So every day that passes, our goal is to reduce the waste and fraud by $4 billion a day, every day, 7 days a week. And so far, we are succeeding.
And I'm going to talk to the specifics, but there obviously are DOGE critics who are reading all kinds of stuff. Obviously, lawmakers on the other side of the aisle are attacking you, and they characterize the approach as this: fire, ready, and then aim. And how do you approach that? How do you respond to that?
Well, I do agree that we actually want to be careful in the cuts. So we want to measure twice, if not thrice, and cut once. Actually, that is our approach. They may characterize it as shooting from the hip, but it is anything but that. Which is not to say that we don't make mistakes. If we were to approach this with the standard of making no mistakes at all, that would be like saying someone in baseball's got to bat 1,000. That's impossible. So when we do make mistakes, we correct them quickly, and we move on.
I like his approach. So
yeah, it's the Democrats are kind of saying, like we used to joke about the old Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. in the FBI. Yeah. You know, it's like, stop or I'll shoot.
Exactly.
You know, they're full of it. And I mentioned earlier that they have a DOGE.gov, people. Yep. All you got to do is go there. It's in real time. They're reporting every single thing they're doing. And if you don't want to go look at that, that's on you.
And they're finding $4 billion a day. That's just incredible. Incredible. And if you think about how much a billion is, I mean, you really have to, there's a video out there on YouTube. You got to look it up. The difference between a million seconds and a billion seconds. And it kind of gets you in perspective. I don't remember how that worked out. It was like 36 years as opposed to 36 hours or something. But it's like, it's an incredible difference between $1 billion and $1 million. So yeah, it's good to have that perspective. So anyway, we do have a rest of the story because of something that happened last Thursday, the 27th. We have a very appropriate rest of the story. And here's Paul Harvey.
Now, the rest of the story. Mickey Charles was crying. He was trying to hide it, but crying nonetheless. His dad could tell, even over the phone. I'm just a failure, the young man was saying again and again. Dad said, where are you? The boy answered, the LaSalle Hotel, Kansas City. Dad said, I'll be right there, and hung up. It would be a long drive from White Bird, Oklahoma, 150 miles at least. But that was okay. It would give Dad time to think. And there was much to think about. First off, the boy was no failure, never could be as far as Dad was concerned. Just needed a little self-confidence, the way he had sometimes when he was a kid. You ain't going to spend your natural life in the mines the way I did, Dad had often admonished. But if you're going to do anything else at all, you got to believe in yourself. And the boy had listened patiently. But had he really understood what the old man was saying? Well, Dad touched the steer before him, but all he could see was his boy up there in Kansas City, his heart breaking in a hotel room far from home. What would Dad say once he got there, he kept asking himself. Maybe something like, hang in there, boy, you're going to be all right, then a little pat on the back, that ought to do it. Or would it? For meanwhile, Mickey Charles was sulking up in that room, pacing back and forth, mentally arming himself against the impending onslaught of persuasion. And Dad could be very persuasive after all. But he'd better not try to talk him out of it this time. For once in his life, his mind was made up. He was going back home. It was 4 hours after Dad had hung up the phone that a knock came at the hotel room door. But when the old man walked inside, he said nothing, not even hello. He just took the son's suitcase and opened it up on the bed and started throwing things into the suitcase. The boy, incredulous, asked, "What are you doing, Dad?" And Dad answered what neither of them had expected to hear. He said, "I'm taking you back to the mines, son. You will be a miner like me." "What do you mean?" the young man said, utterly bewildered. Dad looked up, his eyes filled with tears now. He said, "I thought I'd raised a man, but you're nothing but a coward." The young man's eyes grew wide with disbelief and then with anger. "Oh, yeah," he fired back. "Well, I'll show you who's a coward." Well, what do you know? He showed us all who wasn't. And this coming spring 2007, it'll have been 56 spring times since 1951 that a father had precisely the right thing to say to his son in a hotel room in Kansas City, because, you see, that young man returned to his job and proceeded to do it as have few who ever lived. Fast on his way to setting a team strikeout record his first season with the Yankees, and then 0 for 22 at-bats. After they sent him back to the minor leagues, the 19-year-old switch hitter from Spavinaw, Oklahoma, just plain gave up. And he might have quit baseball forever, until that showdown at the LaSalle Hotel between a dad who figured out just what to do and just what to say to his teenage boy, Mickey Charles Mantle. Mickey Mantle. And now you know the rest of the story.
Since opening day was last Thursday, we figured that'd be this would be a good week for that. So.
Oh, and I forgot all about I have Casey at the bat too. And I was gonna
we can do that next week, because it's only going to be just over a week that they've been playing.
Yeah.
So we can do that next week.
Yeah, I thought it turned out well.
Yeah,
at any rate,
absolutely.
People think, "Oh, I'm not any good at this." Nobody is when you're trying to move up to something new, or you're trying to learn something new.
Sure.
Nobody is an expert to start with.
No.
You have to work at it and learn your craft, just like we've done doing this.
I was going to say, what Richard and I do is and there are times you get the whole imposter thought in your head, and it's like, imposter syndrome is real, and you just got to get over it. And anyway, and who would have? I wish I was that good of a dad that his dad was. So, fantastic advice. Well, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Rumble every week now, and wherever else you get your podcasts.
And you'll find us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the OracleTalkRadioNetwork.com. Enjoy us on your drive home on Thursday. You can get the app for Apple and Android for Oracle Talk Radio Network, or just go to our website at stayoffmylawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
And we will see you next week, folks.
Toodles, and thanks again, everybody, for listening. We appreciate you. Well, we had fun, and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh, or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Mostly, anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.